You're flocking to us here on Birds 365. You got Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen to hang with you for the next 2 hours to talk Philadelphia Eagles football, which will include things that happened around the National Football League last 24, 48 hours that could have residual effects on the Eagles. That's what we do. We give you all sides, all views of stuff going down that could affect the hometown squad, the Birds. Johnny Mac, we knew yesterday was transition day. We talked about would they throw a tag on any player. The only one who even had the smallest of chances was CJ Gardner-Johnson. And we found out yesterday at 4 o'clock that was not going to be the case. And then I found out last night that CJ Gardner-Johnson's dropping hints that, all right, no franchise tag, no more CJ Gardner-Johnson. On his Twitter account last night, he put up an all love Philadelphia tweet with highlights of his very good year here in Philadelphia. And several of his teammates responded with, you got to do what you got to do. You got to take care of your family. Kind of a goodbye tweet from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Now, certainly a 180 can be done, but he's at least laying the groundwork for an exit out of Philadelphia. If you're the Eagles, are you second guessing not putting the franchise tag on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson?
No, not at all. And I don't even know if he's gone. I mean, everybody runs to that conclusion with that tweet. Does that really? I don't know. I don't know what these guys think on social media. Not just CJ, but he's done stuff in the past, quickly deleted. We talked about. I mean, I don't know.
As far as I know, he hasn't deleted this one yet, John. If we're gonna hold it in comparison to the one last week that was ill-advised, he doesn't necessarily think this one is ill-advised. As far as I know,
but I mean, what makes people say that was saying goodbye? I mean, there's no goodbye on there. People. I think certain people jump to conclusions. It can go both ways.
Guilty. I don't know. If I am incorrect in my assumption, I'd love to know what your
I don't know. That's my assumption.
Your assumption is that others are wrong, but you don't know.
I'm saying no. I'm not saying others are wrong. They could be right. I'm saying they could be wrong. That's what I'm saying. All love Philly. Green heart, Eagles emoji. Right. Where is I'm leaving the Eagles in there? I've always thought, and I mentioned with the franchise tag with CJ Gardner-Johnson, there's 3 categories of Eagles in free agency to me. The guys that are as good as gone, the either ors, the Kaiser Whites, the Marcus Eppses of the world that kind of hinges on other players' decisions. And then the group which CJ is in, let's see what the market is, and we'll go from there. And I still think he's in that group. But I'll ask you, since you're going in that direction, all love Philly, green heart, Eagles emoji.
Right.
Is there a goodbye in there?
Yeah. He's ready to take his act elsewhere. Now, as I just said, there's a chance for a 180 if the Eagles come out and give him an unbelievably good offer, and their best offer is that he's got on the open market. He's here in Philadelphia. He's not going to sign somewhere else for less because he put out a see you later bye tweet on the Eagles. He's not going to hold himself to that standard. But my belief is last night when he decided to put that up on social media, he is absolutely leaning toward being elsewhere next year, with the chance of a reversal. But what do I think was the motivation behind his tweet? He was probably at least considering the fact that they could throw the franchise tag on him, which would be a nice payday. You and I both agreed yesterday. At the number for the franchise tag, is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson one of the best 2 or 3 safeties in the National Football League? Because that's what the franchise tag would make him. The Eagles are hoping to get a deal done with him at a lesser number, and certainly with multiple years that they can spread cap hits out over. He probably would have been happy. He would have been honored. He would have been at least felt respected if they had slapped the franchise tag at him. So he said, oh, yeah, well, then I'll be considering all my options, and out of Philly is one of them.
Well, I definitely think that's one of his options, and it was always one of his options. But I will say where we disagree, players hate the franchise tag. They hate it. They don't like when it's put on them. Because that limits their ability for the guaranteed money. I think everybody gets caught up with average annual value with these contracts, and we saw it with the quarterbacks over recent days. And that's one of the problems with the NFL. For whatever reason, nobody tells the truth on contracts. So you hear these agents put out these numbers: 5 years, $200 million, and that's not real. The real money is the guaranteed money. And if CJ signs for more years, he gets more guaranteed money up front. And that's why players don't like the franchise tag. But by and large, they really dislike it because they know they're in a position to get more money on the open market. So we definitely disagree from that point. I don't think he's upset they didn't put the franchise tag on him. Now, what CJ has the ability to do is talk to his agent, Kevin Connors, his agent, and he knows what's going on, and he knows where the negotiations are. So he's got the information already. Look, maybe the Eagles have no interest in bringing him back. Maybe they said it's too much money. He's not. I said yesterday on the show, he's not that guy. He's a good player. I want everybody to hear that because they run down these roads. He's a very good player, but he's not a top safety in the NFL. 14.5 million guys. So when people are saying, are they going to franchise him? I'm like, they're not going to go down that route with CJ. And typically part of that is just the Eagles and the way they do business as well. They don't like to use a franchise tag. So that part of it comes into the equation. It's been 15 years now. This will be the 15th consecutive year that they will not use the franchise tag. Now, they placed it on Deshaun Jackson, Michael Vick, as people point out, but they rescinded it because they worked out it was just a strategy placeholder. So that was the only question. Would they use it as a placeholder? And again, Mike Vick, big deal at the time. Deshaun Jackson, big deal at the time. Proven players. Chauncey had a great year. Made a lot of big plays, but as you brought up the PFF numbers, consistency is not necessarily there. Splash, yes. Consistency, we could use some help. So that's when I say he's not that guy. That's what I mean. Not to say he's not a good player. He's a very good player. He's very young. He's upside. And I want to see this market. I really do, because I think there's a lot of teams that aren't going to touch CJ Gardner-Johnson for two reasons. One, what I just said. Two, big personality. And you want to let that, how many coaches in this league, Jody, are coaching for their job this year?
Bunch. There were enough changes this offseason, but there were also some guys that were sitting on the fence, and if they come back with another bad year, they're probably dead in the water. You're right.
So you can wipe them out. They don't want anything that's going to affect their ecosystem because they're coaching for their jobs. And then there's plenty of guys who aren't, and plenty of guys who are willing to take it on. But you got to have a strong locker room, strong personalities. And as Marcus Hayes reported with Dennard Wilson, that was one of the things that he did well, is keep guys in sort of on the same page and things like that. And by the way, congratulations to Dennard. He gets a job in Baltimore, lands pretty quickly. So, I mean, but back to where we started, I don't know if that was a goodbye. I know a lot of people took it as a goodbye, and maybe it is. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I have no idea is what I'm saying.
And that's fine if you don't want to register an opinion, but I don't think he just sat down and grabbed his phone and decided to throw it out there because, I got a spare 5 minutes. I have to believe there was a reason that he decided to throw out and put this highlight tape together at this time. I think he is a big personality, as you state correctly, that does things and says things for a reason. Not always the best of the organization, but not afraid to speak his mind. So I think there's got to be something behind it. That's what I came up with. If you came up with, how the hell do I know? Okay, fine. But I do believe he laid the groundwork for Eagle fans. It's not looking good for me.
Well, as I said, if Kevin Connor told him, look, we're going to get bigger deals elsewhere, he's out the door. he's out the door. I don't have any doubt in my mind he's out the door. But I will say he's not upset because the Eagles didn't put the franchise tag on him. I think he'd be more upset if they put the franchise tag on him. That's just the nature of most NFL players. They don't want that tag. They don't like it. I'm sure Saquon Barkley's upset about it.
Some players have used the franchise tag quite nicely, thank you very much, and spun that off into bigger and better contracts, aka Kirk Cousins with the Washington, then at the time, Redskins, and completely guaranteed contract with the Minnesota Vikings.
Exception proves the rule. But yeah, if our buddy Andrew Brandt was here, he would, Kirk Cousins is a first ballot Hall of Famer when it comes to making money in the NFL. He's the exception. He's not the rule.
Right. Just saying it can be done. Most are, as you describe, not happy because they'd rather have the big long-term contract. And some of these guys, we've also seen in the NFL, franchise tag put on guys. And then, oh, by the way, they're rescinded. That the players have the choice to immediately accept it. And if they do, boom, the year's locked in. Every penny is guaranteed. You don't get to negotiate for 12 more months. But guys don't necessarily want to do it. They want to continue to negotiate. The negotiations aren't going well. The team gets in a spot with other needs, and they go, yeah, we'll rescind that. We'll go on. We'll change our strategy and our course, and we'll move on without the players. So you got to play it. It's something that you need to handle correctly, and the way that CJ handled it last night, I think he's laying the groundwork for an exit out of Philadelphia. We'll see how that plays out. You mentioned Dennard Wilson, and yes, I was glad to see that he landed with the Baltimore Ravens. Seems like a good dude. You know him better than me. You're one of the big guys. You're down there, and I know you know Gannon well. And Gannon spoke very highly of Dennard Wilson whenever asked about him and the job the D-backs were doing. Glad he got a good gig with a good team and a good defense and a good secondary. The Ravens have good secondary, so he did land on his feet. But the additional information, I don't know if you saw this morning, as per our buddy Ruben Frank on NBC Sports Philadelphia, he is reporting in conflict with Marcus Hayes reported this week, which was it was an Eagle decision that they decided to move on from Dennard Wilson. Ruben reported that when he was out at the combine, and Dennard was out at the combine with the Eagles, that he informed the Eagles that he would not be back with them this year. So we still don't know what happened between the Eagles and Dennard Wilson as of right now. All we know is he's going to be with the Ravens next year.
Yeah, and all I can say, and I said it yesterday on the show, because when Marcus's piece came out, I did contact the Eagles, and they said pretty, concretely, that's not what I heard. So, I mean, there is a conflict, and sort of he said, as I described it yesterday. Look, when they hired Sean Desai, I'd said he's not going to be back. I mean, he's just not going to be back. That's not how sort of coaching works. When you're a finalist for that job, you've been here, and he's passed over. It would have been really difficult for Dennard Wilson to come back to that type of situation. So ultimately, I knew he was going to be not with the Eagles. It's just a matter of, how are you going to spin it? Now, obviously, it was spun from the Eagles' perspective as mutual. I don't think it was mutual either. So I don't think he was fired, and I don't think it was mutual. I think it was Dennard being upset he was passed over from somebody outside the organization. Remember, again, I point out, the Eagles know this. The Eagles criticize, fans and people that don't put the context on things. And by the way, I agree with them. Number one, pass defense. Number two, defense. I've been saying this how long? And you got people saying this defense stinks. This defense stinks. Can't have it both ways, And Dennard Wilson was the leader of the position room that had the number one passing defense in the NFL. And he got passed over for an outside, and the Eagles have been very vocal about their love of Jonathan Gannon over the years, not just this year, not just Jeffrey Lurie stepping in and say, we'll pay you more to be the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Think about that, Jody.
Yeah.
Then the Arizona is going to pay for you, because that's what happened. Then Arizona is going to pay for you to be the head coach. That's how much they liked Jonathan Gannon. And they went outside the organization. Dennard Wilson can't stay in that. It's like, what else can you do? If I'm Dennard Wilson, that's what I'd be saying. I'd say exactly what I said to you, Jody. I said, we're the number 1 pass defense in the NFL, the number 2 defense overall. You just wanted to keep Gannon and pay him like a head coach. I'm his right-hand man, which Gannon said in public, and you're going outside the organization. How do you stay in that situation if you're Dennard Wilson?
Well, then my question to you would be, do you refute? Do you think that it's misinformation? Because there was a report that Dennard Wilson, after finding out that he didn't get the gig as defensive coordinator, said, I'm good with coming back and coaching the DBs with the Eagles again. Do you think that was a fabrication? And
no, I certainly don't think. I know Marcus well. Someone told Marcus is not making that up out of whole cloth. By no stretch am I saying that. But, you know, again, in these types of situations, and that's one of the problems with, you know, we talk about the obvious when it comes to changing coaches. There's all these political aspects to it as well, that are probably more difficult than replacing somebody from an X's and O's or play calling standpoint, because people are going to get upset. People are going to go in a different direction. And from Dennard's perspective, look, if it were me, I can only put myself in that situation. If it were me and I put down what he put down on his resume, and I was passed over, I would say, what else do I have to do? What else can I do to prove myself to you? I got to go somewhere else. That's how I would take it. Marcus heard that from somebody. He's not making it up. You know, whether they had the right information, whether they were in the room. Now you have Ruben, you have dueling reports saying Dennard Wilson told the Eagles he wasn't going to be back, and the Eagles say it was mutual. You know, take your pick. But he wasn't coming back. And I said that when they hired Sean Desai, you know, we were off. But I said it on Mike Gill's show. We're going to have Mike Gill. It was over. He was not coming back.
It was most likely that he was going to be elsewhere, and now he is. And however it came down, and we may never get to the bottom of it. You're a pretty good reporter, so somebody may tell you at some point off the record exactly how it did come down. The Eagles are going to get on with the rest of their lives with Sean Desai as their defense coordinator, and Dennard Wilson's going to get on with his coaching career with the Baltimore Ravens, and a pretty good landing spot with a good team, with a good defense, with a good secondary. I'm just happy for Dennard Wilson, because you're right, he got passed over. Did the Eagles do the right thing? We'll find out how good a defense coordinator Sean Desai is. Did they miss out on an opportunity? Did they make a mistake? We don't know, and we won't really find that out, because with whatever Wilson does down in Denver, that's him as a positional coach. Will that show that, oh, he would have been a better defense coordinator than Sean Desai? Probably not. So we'll never really know what could have happened if they'd gone in a different direction. All I'm saying is I'm glad he got a good job. He got a job quickly and got a good job so he can continue on and maybe get into the conversation of potential defensive coordinator openings down the road. All right, John McMullen and Jody McDonald, a.k.a. Mac and Mac, here on Birds 365. We've got our buddy Mike Gill in the waiting room. He's ready to jump in, jump on, and confirm that John McMullen said last week, oh, he's gone. Dennard Wilson's gone. It doesn't matter what we've heard or not heard yet. He's not coming back and working under Sean Desai. We will talk about that and all things Eagles with Mike Gill from down the shore next here on Birds 365.